Yo, what's up guys, it's Rob, and today we're going to be looking at the Rocket Burst Core and the SteelSeries Rival 3. Both are $30 mice, and honestly, both of these mice are really good for their price. It's pretty insane that these are worth $30 because these two mice are actually better than some mice that cost more. But just before we get started, I wanted to let you all know both of these mice are on my mouse review sheet. Link to that is down in the description. I add every single mouse I review into that sheet. I've already made a review video on the Rocket Burst Core. I still haven't made a review video on the SteelSeries Rival 3, but that's coming soon. I've just been focusing on a lot of new releases and stuff. And well, if you want a more in-depth look at both of the mice, I have a lot of info on each of them on my mouse review sheet. So let's get started. So like I said before, both of these are $30 mice, and the Rocket Burst Core weighs 70 grams, while the SteelSeries Rival 3 weighs 77 grams. So the Burst Core has the edge on this, but honestly, I don't really feel the difference with either of the mice. They both kind of just feel the same way. I kind of just don't feel the 7 gram difference, but still the Burst Core does weigh 7 grams less. Both of these mice do have software. You can change the polling rates to 125 Hz, 250 Hz, 500 Hz, and up to 1000 Hz on both of these mice. And you cannot change the liftoff distance on either of these mice. And both of their liftoff distance is actually pretty high. And I calculated it to be the same distance as well. So their liftoff distance are both high and they're kind of the same. I used playing cards to calculate liftoff distance, and well, both of these mice got up to 8 playing cards. After the 8 playing cards, both of their sensors would stop tracking, but still, it's a pretty high liftoff distance, and I would just keep that in mind before any of you buy the mouse. I know liftoff distance is a big deal for a lot of people. For me, it doesn't really affect me that much. I don't really mind having high liftoff distance. It's never really affected my aim, but I know for some people it is a big deal, so just definitely keep that in mind. And also, it cannot be changed, so keep that in mind as well. So now for the shape and size of both of these mice. They are both extremely similar when it comes to shape and size. The Rocket Burst Core is just a tad bit bigger, and when you put it in your hand, it definitely feels bigger. It just feels bulkier as well. The Rival 3 feels a bit skinnier. I don't really have the biggest hands. 17.5 centimeters in length by 9.5 centimeters in width is my hand size. I'm actually kind of able to palm this mouse at my hand size, the Burst Core, but the Rival 3, it kind of seems like I'm pushing it when it comes to palming the mouse. But I really don't think palm grip is the best grip when using these mice because the hump seems to be a little bit more towards the back, and both of these mice are excellent for claw grip, and it is my main grip that I use, and it just feels super natural with these mice. It feels really good. Fingertip does work as well, but I definitely think that fingertip would be better on the Rival 3 because it is kind of skinnier and smaller, and the Burst Core kind of just feels bulky. So I would definitely keep that in mind. For palm at my hand size is the Burst Core. Claw would definitely be both because they're both great. The Rival 3 definitely being better for fingertip over the Burst Core. But if you do have bigger hands, I would definitely go with the Burst Core over the Rival 3 because it is bulkier, it is a tad bit bigger. So now for the coating on both mice. The coating on the Rival 3 is definitely better. This is definitely one of the best coatings that I have used. It's up there with the XM1. Not as good as the Rocket Cone Pure Ultra, but it's really close to that. It's really great if you have sweaty hands, and the same thing can be said for the Rocket Burst Core, but it is definitely not as good as the Rival 3's coating. So if you can see on the Burst Core, the sides of the mouse have a different coating compared to the top shell and the mouse 1 and mouse 2, and this top shell and mouse 1 and mouse 2 feel great. The coating here is really good, perfect for people who have sweaty hands like me, but here on the sides, it is grippy on the sides, but it just feels like it would be slippery. It feels different, and it doesn't feel all that great, but I didn't have any issues with sweat or anything like that with it, but it just doesn't feel as good as the top and mouse 1 and mouse 2. The Rival 3's coating is just great overall. It's the same coating all throughout the mouse, and I would definitely say that the coating on the Rival 3 is better overall compared to the Burst Core for sure. But like I said before, both are still really good, very grippy, feel great on the hand, and had no issues with the coating or anything like that. So now for the cable of each of the mice. Both have a rubber cable, which is quite a bummer, but really, what can you expect for $30? But honestly, the Rival 3's rubber cable is the best rubber cable that I have used. I haven't seen any other stock mouse with a rubber cable like this. It's actually surprisingly very flexible. Like if you look at this, it's pretty damn flexible. Still nothing compared to a paracord, of course, but for a rubber cable, this is actually amazing. But just look at this. I mean, it almost looks like it wouldn't need a paracord. I would probably still end up paracording it if I were to main the mouse. But yeah, for a rubber cable, this is the best it's gonna get, and it's pretty flexible for a rubber cable. And well, on the burst core, it's definitely much stiffer. As you can see, it's not as flexible as the Rival 3's cable, and it is pretty stiff. Both do kind of drag on the mouse pad as well. You feel the stiffness that comes with a rubber cable. But like I said before, what do you really expect at the $30 price range? And the better cable definitely goes to the Rival 3 because it's just more flexible. It's a better rubber cable and not as stiff as the Roccat Burst Core. So now for the mouse feet. The mouse feet on the Rival 3, I was really surprised with them because they do offer a smooth glide. I didn't really run into any issues with the mouse feet at all. I didn't run into any scratchiness issues. I have heard other people have issues with their mouse feet on the Rival 3 saying that they're scratchy and stuff, so maybe I just got lucky with mine. But honestly, I didn't have any issue with them. And on the Roccat Burst Core, I do get some scratchiness. There is some glide there, but they definitely aren't as good as my experience with the Rival 3. I would probably end up replacing the mouse feet regardless, but my experience with the Rival 3's mouse feet were definitely better. So now for mouse 1 and mouse 2, the Rival 3 has a more sensitive click, definitely requires less force than average to actuate mouse 1 and mouse 2. They do have a nice crisp click to them, and I didn't really get any post or pre-travel on either mouse 1 or mouse 2. Also, no side play when playing in game. I do get some side play if I try to intentionally look for it like this with both hands, but it just won't happen when using the mouse naturally. And now to the Roccat Burst Core. These definitely do feel like heavier click compared to the Rival 3. They definitely require more force to actuate than average, but I really don't think it's an issue. I honestly prefer heavier clicks, but that's just me. If you do end up preferring lighter clicks, then the Rival 3 would be for you, but if you like heavier clicks, the Burst Core is definitely for you. The Burst Core clicks sound very dull, and they really aren't that crispy sounding. It's definitely more satisfying to press down on the Rival 3's clicks than on the Burst Cores, but I get no post-travel or pre-travel on the Burst Cores click, and also I get absolutely no side play on the Burst Cores mouse 1 or mouse 2. So now for the side buttons, I definitely think the Burst Cores side buttons are much better than the Rival 3's. They are much larger, they have a nice crisp click to them, and definitely one of the bigger side buttons that I've seen on a mouse. But on the Rival 3, you see extremely skinny side buttons, probably the skinniest side buttons I've ever seen. And they feel kind of mushy as well. They still have a nice click to them, but they do feel kind of mushy, and this side button here can be pushed pretty far into the mouse, so there is a decent amount of post travel on that side button right there on the Rival 3. But for the Burst Core side buttons, they feel great. Not really any pre-travel or post-travel on the side buttons, just a nice crisp click. And now for the scroll wheel. The Rival 3 scroll wheel is definitely louder than the Burst Core scroll wheel. It requires more force to actuate compared to the Burst Core, while the Burst Core scroll wheel is actually very sensitive. I'd never accidentally press down on middle mouse button though, so it's not really an issue, but just remember that the scroll wheel on the Burst Core is very light compared to the Rival 3. But they both feel great when scrolling up or scrolling down, and I really didn't run into any issues with either of them. So now for the build quality. Both of these mice are built extremely solid. They feel of very high quality, and they just feel very solid. I don't know what else to say. I get no flex anywhere on each mice. I do just get some minimal flex on the bottom of the Burst Core, but it really isn't a big deal because it is on the bottom of the mouse. But other than that, they just feel extremely solid, of very high quality, and these are just built very well, and at a $30 price range. It's kind of crazy because you can buy some mice right now that are worth $60 and they're not even built this well. So which one do I think is better? Well, honestly, it really depends. Both of these mice are amazing, and I'm honestly torn between choosing either or. I love both of them, and for $30, it's an absolute steal. The only bummer for some people would be that the liftoff distance is pretty high, so definitely keep that in mind and you cannot change it. If you have a bigger hand than me, then I would definitely go with something like the Burst Core because it does feel bulkier and it is just a tad bit bigger. But if you do have smaller hands, then you could definitely go with something like the Rival 3. But like I said before, they both have their pros and cons, comparing them side to side. So based off the comparisons I made on the video, it would really be up to you to decide which one is better for you. But like I've said before, for $30, this is an absolute steal. I would definitely recommend both of these mice. And if you do want to spend just a tad bit more, you can definitely replace the mouse feet and the cable and you'd have an extremely solid mouse on your hands. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!